let's get to some real news.
Begin with a deadly attack on U.S. troops in the Middle East, and the U.S. is vowing to hit back. A drone attack struck an American military outpost in Jordan near the border with Syria yesterday. 3 American soldiers were killed. Nearly 3 dozen others were injured. President Biden says an Iran...
Isn't Jordan where the Navy goes for break? Not just the Navy, like every like Marines. Jordan is landlocked. No, chat. Like they fly. What do you mean? Why are people acting like you have to go with the ship, dog? What are you talking about? I'm saying on break, like when they're active duty service members go to Jordan when they're on break, is what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. You're thinking Singapore? I mean, I guess they go everywhere. I think they break at Bahrain or Abu Dhabi. All right. Yeah, for R&R.
Is to blame here. And he said, quote, "We shall respond." Ed O'Keefe is at the White House with the latest. Ed, good morning.
Gail, good morning. The attack comes as tensions between the U.S. and Iranian-backed proxy militias are on the rise, and it runs the risk of causing Israel's war with Hamas to erupt into a broader regional conflict. U.S. officials say the troops at that outpost in Jordan had little warning of the incoming drone.
The attack came before sunrise early Sunday at an American base in northeast Jordan. CBS News has learned those injured and killed were in sleeping quarters when the armed drone struck. The outpost, known as Tower 22, supports U.S. Special Forces operating inside Syria, where they're under constant threat of attack. President Biden, campaigning in South Carolina on Sunday, blamed Iranian-backed militias and vowed to retaliate.
We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases, and we shall respond.
Samantha Vinograd is a former counterterrorism official in the Biden administration.
It is critical that the administration respond quickly and responsibly. But that means thinking about how their actions will be interpreted and carefully reviewing targets so that Iran doesn't overreact and seek to harm more Americans.
American forces have been operating in Syria and Jordan as part of an ongoing mission to root out ISIS. Thousands of troops have been stationed across Iraq ever since the end of the war there. Since the Hamas invasion of Israel in October, U.S. military sites in Iraq and Syria have been attacked more than 160 times. Sunday's deadly attack sparked bipartisan condemnation and swift Republican calls to directly attack Iran now.
Rushing.
Bro, Trump literally needs to do nothing. He's just doing the kick back and enjoy the show strategy. Let Brandon sort it out. This is devastating. I feel like it is legitimately the dumbest thing you could do to put your entire lineage and like the re-election chances you have directly in the pooper in a blender and just blending that shit at the behest of a dude who very openly has mentioned, Netanyahu, who's very openly mentioned that he hates you and does not want you to get reelected and wants Trump to get reelected. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense that Brandon is expanding the conflict, making it worse, and every step of the way, the media is literally going, well, they're trying to retaliate in a way that doesn't escalate. And it's like, what do you mean? Bro, pull out. Pull back, do diplomacy, pressure Israel to stop doing genocide. It is both the moral position and the pragmatic one. Do you want to win the election or not? It makes no sense.
To action in a moment like this would be extremely dangerous.
The Pentagon has yet to identify the dead or their military units pending family notifications. Injuries could increase in the coming hours or days. And this is the largest loss of life for the U.S. military to enemy action since the fall of Afghanistan.
It's so funny because it's like, bro, they keep escalating and then there is retaliation. Every single time. They keep escalating and there's retaliation. They keep escalating and there's retaliation. And then they just keep doing it over and over again. These guys do not fucking care. Fighting against America solidifies their position, whether it be the Houthis, Ansar Allah, or whether it be Iran. fighting against America makes them look good. They have the money. They have the willingness. They don't have anything else to lose in this circumstance. They stand to gain. They stand to benefit. So constantly trying to fix the situation by blowing them up is so idiotic. I don't know what to say. There is no such thing as de-escalatory bombing. The military-industrial complex is getting fed. Yeah, except not really. I mean, it is. And the stocks are doing well. I mean, I guess you have to just make more bullets and make more bombs. But like we're like tapping out. There's a calculation that one must make here. There is somewhat of a balance to endless military conquest. Too much chaos and too much war it will lead to a situation of instability that actually is not good for profit. We want to max out profit. Ukraine is good for profit. Very little downsides. Okay? Very little impact in a negative way to the United States of America, with the exception of like OPEC Plus, I guess. Israel, on the other hand, is profitable in the short term, not profitable if the situation continues and escalates. America is losing its soft power. It's just stupid. It makes no sense. I don't even think it's that profitable. With the Houthis, and the attacks will likely stop if a Gaza ceasefire is achieved with Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. Attacks likely won't stop until the U.S. fully leaves the group. Just don't cite the Gaza war, but also U.S. presence in the area. Iran wasn't to solidify its land bridge. This report sums it up well.
Well, in the
Thank
last
you,
few
News.
moments, Christian, John Kirby, the White House National Security Council spokesman, has been speaking in the White House. He didn't really give any clues as to what Joe Biden was thinking and what he might do next, other than to say that he will act, he said, in his own schedule and in our own time. But there is no doubt that the events of the weekend pose a very significant immediate challenge for Joe Biden. Does he respond to the killing of these three US servicemen by going after the Iranian proxy groups directly themselves to try and contain it to them, as we've seen the US do in the past? Or does he now decide that enough is enough and now it is time to attack the source of these attacks, i.e. Iran itself? Risk, therefore, Tehran retaliating and this whole thing spiraling, igniting into a far more dangerous conflict in the Middle East.
Bro, attack the source of war with Iran is, oh God.
That's the calculation that Joe Biden is trying to weigh up now as he's huddled together today on two separate occasions with his national security team. One other bit of information that's come out today as to how this attack happened in the first place, why that...
Elon is right, by the way. We do have a way, and I myself also portrayed in a certain way, like the proxies taking pot shots in Iran, and the Iranian proxies taking pot shots at like American troops stationed in Syria and Iraq has been permanent. That has not really stopped. So that predated the Israeli ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. So that part was already happening. But we do have the capacity of like basically looking at this entire thing and saying like all of this is happening at the same time. And the reason why I cover it from that framework is because it is all still connected. There might be different interests for the proxy groups or for Iranian presence in the area. But overall, I think that the thread that ties everything together still is very much America's actions and America's reactions and the way that America is trying to manage the situation.
Drone was not intercepted by the US base, and US officials have said it's because at exactly the same time the militant drone was coming in, a US drone was returning to the base at the same time, and therefore the militant drone, they say, was not seen. However it happened, it did. Three US servicemen are now dead, and the Middle East is bracing for the US response.
We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yes.
I'd ask you for a moment of silence for all 3 of those falls.
The killing of American soldiers in the Middle East is the moment Joe Biden had been dreading, but the president is unequivocal about the next step.
Do you not think overthrowing the regime in Iran will be good? Most of the citizens in Iran want that. It depends on what you No, dude, if you want to overthrow the regime in Iran, Let the fucking Iranians do it. We don't get to have a say in this process because our interference in Iran is what caused the current regime in Iran to begin with. When will people understand? Like, we should not have a say in these affairs, okay? Holy moly, dude. Says who? You? Yeah, I just don't understand, like, the mentality of the average American being like, I don't understand. Why don't we just, like, fucking overthrow the regime in Iran? You think America's not trying? What do you think is going on? What do you think the MEK is? It's so crazy.
And we shall respond.
The question for Biden now is how he responds and whether that retaliation brings about an escalation in the region with Iran that he's been so desperate to avoid. Since the Hamas attack on October the 7th, the conflict has steadily escalated across the region. Israel has exchanged strikes with the Iran-backed militia Hezbollah across the Lebanese border, and Houthi rebels in Yemen, also allied with Iran, have targeted commercial and military ships in the Red Sea, and in response the US and UK have hit Houthi military targets there. While other Iran-backed groups have launched over 150 attacks on US bases in Iraq and Syria. But yesterday's strike on US base Tower 22 in Jordan marks the first time US personnel have been directly killed in the escalating conflict. The US has thousands of troops stationed in the Middle East, it claims, as a deterrent, mostly against the resurgence of the Islamic State. And the White House insisted today it wasn't looking to up the ante with Iran.
We don't seek a war with Iran. We're not looking for a wider conflict in the Middle East. In fact, every action the president has taken has been designed to de-escalate, to try to bring the tensions down. And obviously this attack, very, very serious.
The counter argument could be that America was the one which got Iran where it is right now by plotting the first in the first place, which led to the revolution in the 70s, so it will be righting wrongs. What? That is not a counter argument. You just used my argument and then said, but what if things pan out differently this time? You literally just repeated what I said, and then your counter argument was basically, but what if it doesn't happen like that this time? Especially when, like, there are plenty of other countries that are close in proximity to Iran that you can point to as, like, abject failures of this exact same jingoistic, Western chauvinist attitude that we have towards doing coups on other countries in general, especially in that region.
Certainly escalatory on the behalf of these militia groups. We have to take that seriously, and we will. But I'm not going to get ahead of the president's decision space one way or the other.
This blood is on this administration's hands.
Biden says he doesn't want to escalate, yet in an election year, nor does he want to be accused of being soft on America's enemies, especially Iran, as hawks on the right are only too keen to remind him.
They end every statement of we're going to defend ourselves, but we don't want this thing to spread. And what Iran hears from that is, well, let's take it to the next level and see what we can get away with next time. And now we have 3 dead service members because of it.
Given these strikes in Jordan, what should or what do you think America will do next?
I think striking Shia-based militants in Iraq and Syria is almost a certainty that you're going to see that in retaliation. The real question is whether or not the U.S. is going to decide that at this point, this is all about Iran, and that you're going to have to see either covertly or overtly strikes and efforts against Iran directly in a way that we really haven't seen yet.
Isn't it also true that the crux of the matter is the war in Gaza? If the US were to address that more forcibly with Israel, is that not getting to the actual?
There's something wild about, like, Israel straight up murking hundreds of Palestinian Americans, including one in, like, the West Bank last week. And America just basically going, you know what we should do? We should cut the funding to the main refugee relief agency at a time when there is, like, straight up ethnic cleansing happening to the Palestinians. But then, like, 3 service members are bombed by an Iranian proxy. They're like, oh, it's time to fucking nuke Iran. What are we talking about? And it's like, okay, where is the energy then? Like, what do you mean? Deal with Israel first. They have killed more American citizens than fucking Iran has. Fuck you mean?
heart of the problem.
I'm skeptical that just because the U.S. is able to compel a ceasefire, which I, by the way, don't think it can, that it's going to end the broader challenge. The reality is this is about Iran and Iran's role in the region and wanting to have a dominant voice in the region and not being deterred right now.
If that's President Biden's calculation too, that the time to address the threat of Iran directly is now, then America and the world is about to be dragged ever deeper into this conflict.
Well, earlier I spoke to the retired US general and former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, Wesley Clark. I asked him what action he thinks the US should now take.
In a crisis like this, you have to take the initiative away from the enemy. What I would call it is you have to establish escalation dominance. You keep apologizing for escalating as they keep hitting. So you got to hit back so hard that they say, okay, we've had enough. We're not going to strike back again. And that means you must go.
It's time for a nuclear first strike, folks. Nuking Tehran. Good stuff. Thank you, General Wesley Clark.
Go to the source. And the source is Iran. So you have to pick out the targets in Iran that will dissuade the Revolutionary Guards and the Ayatollahs.
There is nothing that will single-handedly create permanent 100-year Ayatollah supremacy in the entire region than America directly striking Iran. Like, I don't know if America is a Shia op or something. I don't know what they're doing. But like, if you want Iran to thrive, yeah, strike Iran. Like, literally, people were talking about how 4 Iranian political dissidents were executed by the state the other day. This kind of stuff is genuinely frustrating for many Iranians, understandably. Okay, they don't just like sit there and go, oh, that's chill, whatever, they deserved it. That's crazy. It's not. It's completely unacceptable. Guess what, though? Guess what? If you fucking blow up Iran, well, then all Iranians are going to turn in the same way to go, all right, well, now the real enemy is in the room. It's so stupid. It's so insane. There's real resistance in Iran. Arm them, stop bombing, and giving the Iranians the means to overturn the government. Dude, guys, stop. No, this is so dumb. This part is also so silly. Please stop armchair quarterbacking regime change in other countries, please. I promise you. That is what America does all the time. It is a demonstrable failure. Please.
From continuing this campaign.
So that does mean that you're talking about strikes in Iran itself, on Iranian territory.
That's right.
Yeah.
That would be, if I were in the chain of command, that's what I'd be recommending, because the tit for tat doesn't work. And we know that historically. We saw this when I was a young officer in Vietnam. Tit for tat doesn't work. You want to make a difference, you must use decisive force.
Yeah. Vietnam. So much tit for tat happened in Vietnam, which then was a decisive victory, I guess. He just brought up Vietnam, where we literally use a disproportionate use of force against a broadly civilian population and then got our shit pushed in. What are you saying? Vietnam quite literally is a demonstration of decisive force being an abject failure. You just proved the entire opposite point that you were trying to make. What the hell is he saying, man? Not only did we go absolutely balls to the wall in Vietnam in the least ethical ways possible in our illegal domination, but we also lost.
Take out these small outposts. Take them out. Don't strike once. Go back again and again. But you must also go to the source, and that source is Iran. The Iranian government is in deep trouble. Most of the people don't want it there, but they can't get rid of it. So I keep hearing from...
Yeah, which is why I, Wesley Clark, want to make sure that the Iranian government's approval rating skyrockets, okay? It's so funny that liberals simultaneously recognize, or at least use it as like a talking point, that like, oh, the Houthis are not genuine. They are only intercepting ships because they want to get popular support from the region. Okay? And it's so funny that, like, you say that, so you recognize what attacking the Houthis is doing and what attacking, like, America's regional offshoot does to the popularity of certain militancies. But then you literally suggest the same method again to Iran. It's so dumb.
For my Iranian friends, send the B-52s in. Now, we're not going to send any B-52s in, I don't think. But this is a...
Oh my God, it's literally the joke I make all the time. Like, bro, please, I am Iranian. I want you to bomb Tehran. I am Iranian. I am telling you. Wesley Gulark, I am telling you. Bomb Iran, please. Glass it, bro. Glass Iran, bro. Fucking Christ, dude. He's doing the fucking meme. Turkish accent hits me hard. No, that wasn't Turkish. That's Iranian.
A time where the United States has to establish its escalation dominance over Iran.
Right. And how do you factor in American domestic politics here? Because you have Donald Trump saying President Biden is leading you into World War III and saying none of this would have happened had he been president. How does that change the calculation as to what to do?
Well, I think that it's inevitable that there will be some effort on the part of politicians to make some domestic hay out of this. But I think statesmen have to rise above the domestic politics. And I think this is a case where President Biden has to choose what's right for
them. Statesmen have to rise above domestic politics and bomb Iran. I want you to understand, his advocacy is to bomb Iran. He's saying Biden has to rise to the occasion to bomb Iran. It is literally this meme. Holden blood feast.
for the country. And you know, you have to be careful how you read this, because when I talk to Muslim Americans in the United States and Iranian Americans, what they're looking for from the president is strength. They're not looking for compromise. They know what the Iranian government's about. They know what its intent is. So they're looking to see a president who exhibits strength. It hasn't happened in Ukraine. And that started the slide. Really, Afghanistan did, and then Ukraine. And so what they see is an American administration which doesn't respond with the full force which it's capable. And they attribute it to timidity. They're looking for strong leadership. So I think the domestic politics of this are that the president will come out better politically at home and abroad if he responds more strongly.
Isn't the other way to stop this, though, to stop the war in Gaza? You know, you stop that war in Gaza, you stop the Houthi attacks on shipping, you stop these Iranian-backed attacks.
He's about to be like, you're looking quite brown over there, talking to me about not bombing Iran and then taking away Israel from the equation. Excuse me. I'm talking about bipartisanly blowing up Iran. You're talking about pulling away from another conflict. The fuck is wrong with you?
That's the key to it all, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure that's a safe assumption. I think you could.
Oh, yeah, dude, totally.
Stop the war in Gaza. You'd still have these attacks. You still have interference in shipping whenever Iran wants to do it. The war in Gaza is a convenient excuse for Iran to continue a long-term campaign to drive the United States out and to establish itself as...
This is so funny. If it's a convenient excuse, why not try it and test it out? And also, why has it not happened prior to the Gaza invasion? Like, he's taking the maximalist position here. He's saying, like, no, we have to kill everyone in Iran. I hope you guys understand. His position, even before Israel, even before the Houthis, is to end Iran. His argument is, let's kill as many people as possible. I don't know how else he can make it clearer here. He just said, Iran will always have the capacity to strike ships at the Red Sea no matter what. Which implies that the real problem isn't even the Houthis, it's Iran. This is one school of thought in the State Department. that we have advocated for in perpetuity. You have the John Boltons of the world obviously saying this kind of dumb shit.
Advisor to President Trump, Ambassador John Bolton.
As well. It's psychotic because it's like becoming a bipartisan consensus almost. Holden Blood Feast, Republican Iowa, 118 years old. Please, God, just let us nuke Iran. Nothing else matters. I'll do anything, please. I just want to see burning flesh one last time before I die. Respectable. Bipartisan. Good stuff.
It's a regional hegemon. And so I think we have to be careful. Although it's popular in the press to pull all this together, in fact, it's entirely different. For Israel, what's happening in Gaza is an existential threat. Israel cannot...
That's crazy. Yeah, Israel is an existential threat. Iran is an existential threat to the United States. Palestinians are an existential threat to Israel. It always feels like there's an existential threat out there to like America and America's allies, man. It's crazy. He's like, it's not connected. They're just totally valid in doing what they're doing.
Continue business as usual with Hamas embedded in tunnels with weapons being...
Also odd that they care about which country wants to rule over the Middle East, the same Middle East that they don't care about. Yeah. It is likely that any retaliation from the U.S. wouldn't come as a single massive show of force, a Biden administration official says. Actions may be tiered. We may see several rounds of action. Great.
Being built there and supplied and continuing to attack Israel. Britain couldn't do it. You wouldn't have it if a group of people were in the Shetland Islands continuing to lob mortars into Scotland. You wouldn't accept it. And neither will Israel. And there's still the problem of Hezbollah in the north. So I think you have to keep these two problems separate. Israel needs to deal with Gaza. If it can deal with it in a more humanitarian way, that's fine. And they're trying.
But I don't give a shit. But they don't have to do that. I don't care because they are Muslimans.
I believe the United States has to deal with the situation in Iran, and the two are trying to be linked, but actually.
He literally doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about the genocide in Gaza. Great. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, who cares? I just want to nuke Iran. Please stay on message. I'm here to talk about why I believe we should nuke Iran.
Actually are distinct.
General Clark, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, I then spoke to Syed Mohammed Marandi, who's a professor at the University of Tehran. And I began by asking what he thinks would happen if the United States took that kind of military action against Iran.
It would bring down the global economy because Iranian military forces will respond decisively against American military bases.
Don't feed the Russian China-backed Iran troll. Oh my God. Former Supreme Commander of NATO ignoring the Russian nesting doll that is this Iranian trap. The Russian nesting doll. Okay, listen. Hamas and Israel's retaliation to Hamas has been genuinely beneficial for Russian interest. That is true. But I think we have to remember that, we are massively culpable in the way that we change our attention and direct our attention into Gaza rather than Ukraine. Like, it is in a way no different than saying like, well, Hamas made Israel do genocide in Gaza. It's like, oh, Russia is making America shift their resources away from Ukraine and into Israel so that Israel can do a genocide. I don't know what to tell you, but like at a certain point, we have a little bit of culpability, I think.
Across the region and in the Persian Gulf in particular. And those regimes in the Persian Gulf that host U.S. bases would be seen as hostile. And therefore, their key oil and gas infrastructure would be not out of bounds.
And so the question of retaliation is there's no doubt in your mind, because General Clark argues that,
The two aren't linked, and I'm fairly sure Hezbollah wasn't attacking across Israel's northern border. The Houthis weren't firing missiles at drones and ships in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, and the level of attacks in Syria and Iraq were not the same before October 7th. Yeah. Anyone that says that these concepts are not linked are wrong. Of course they're linked. Israel being an American proxy and everyone else in the region, either having a genuine interest in emancipation and also operating as an Iranian proxy, or just operating straight up as an Iranian proxy.
The government in Tehran is not popular with the whole population, and that a decisive military strike might make it stop and pause and say, no, this is where we back off?
I think when Trump murdered the Iranian general who led the fight against ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria and Iraq, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which the Americans and their allies helped create, when the United States murdered him, we saw the millions of people in Tehran go to his funeral. I think the Americans should not believe their own propaganda.
What is Iran's strategy? Is it trying to say, unless you stop the bombing in Gaza, all of this is going to get worse?
That's not an Iranian strategy. That's clear as day to everyone. The United States likes to think, or likes to pretend, and your government likes to pretend, that everyone in this region is an Iranian proxy. Yemen is an Iranian proxy. Lebanon is an Iranian proxy. Hamas is an Iranian proxy. Iraqis, if that's the case, then we are the superpower, not the United States.
But all of those structures do get support from Iran, don't they? You know, there are Iranian Revolutionary Guard in Syria. You send weapons to the Houthis. It's clear that there are clear lines. So I'm just trying to work out what is the strategy to stop Israel, or what is the current Iranian government strategy?
As long as this continues, the situation is going to get worse. And have no doubt that the United States will not win this battle.
Do you think we are now on the road to a big escalation and, I mean, really a world war?
I don't think the United States is that stupid to launch an attack on Iran, because it will destroy the world economy. And the United States is already losing the war in Ukraine, and in its competition with China, it's not doing well at all. This is not a war that the Americans can win. It will definitely lose.
I mean, that's very interesting, because it's exactly what General Clark said is the Iranian view, that as long as they think America won't attack them with full force, they will carry on doing what they're doing. And you're sort of illustrating that point.
Have no doubt, Iran is fully prepared for an American strike. But the United States will feel the consequences immediately. Iran is not Yemen. Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not Syria, and it's not Hamas. It's not even Vietnam. The United States would be making the greatest miscalculation of the 21st century and the 20th century combined.
Mr. Morandi, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I like that Wesley, guys, stop posting Millennium Challenge. I know. They had to they got owned by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in the Millennium Challenge. I know, I've talked about it a million times over. The real problem is that this dude is kind of riding Iran too hard. He's right. He's not wrong. I think partially because it would be, I guess it would be the closest to World War III. How is he riding Iran hard? He said Iran would retaliate aggressively and it would genuinely create danger for the global economy. You can't say this dude is kind of riding Iran too hard. The global economy would get destroyed, question mark, when simultaneously so many people are losing their minds over what Yemen is doing. Yemen is nothing. The Ansar Allah is nothing. They are literally a proxy that was genocided until a year ago. Okay? Using Iranian weapons, they have been able to literally disrupt global trade by 13%? 15%? Come on, dog. You're out of your mind if you think that Iran does not have a much larger capability. If you personally think we have to retaliate against the Houthis because they're disrupting global trade, then what do you think Iran can do? They'll just start pumping pipelines, I think. I mean, which is what he said. It would shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which would be even bigger than the Bab el-Mandeb, and fire missiles on energy facilities. Yeah, exactly. They would just start doing Russia shit to every regional actor that is aligned with America. They would just blow up their fucking energy plants. They would blow up oil refineries. They have done it. They did it. They did it with the Houthis before. What do you mean? And that wasn't even like directly because of Iran. Do you not think that that would be genuinely a problem for the global economy?